be demonstrating how to change an overrunning alternator pulley on a 2006 Volkswagen Jetta TDI. We're going to be using an overrunning alternator pulley made by Ina. Ina makes a very high quality pulley and is an official OE supplier to Volkswagen and also many other German automakers such as Audi, BMW, Mercedes, and Porsche. So let's get started on changing the pulley. For starters, we're going to loosen the fuel filter housing and swing it up out of the way so we can gain access to the alternator pulley. If you have a gasoline engine such as a 2-liter turbo, you wouldn't have to do this step because you have plenty of room. This isn't here, and you can gain access to the alternator pulley right away. So for starters, we're going to rotate the windshield washer expansion tank cap so we can gain access to the 3 bolts, 3 fasteners that are down here. There's 2 bolts and 1 nut. For starters, just remove the top one. And then this bolt down here just has to be loosened quite a bit, but you don't have to completely remove it because the bracket, once this nut on this side down towards the bottom is removed, you can just swing out the bracket on the fuel filter housing. But you want to be really careful on this nut that's down here that you don't drop it because it's kind of in a weird spot. So now that that's all removed, we can swing that out of the way. And I might mildly pop these little hose clips out and swing this up out of the way. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to remove the serpentine belt that's on the vehicle. But before we do that, what I like to do is I like to mark the belt so that I know the rotational direction of the belt. Just because you don't necessarily want to put the belt back on when you're reassembling it in the opposite direction of its rotation, because in the long term it can reduce the serpentine belt life that it will have, just because it's really tough on the cords that are inside the belt. So what I like to do is I'm just going to take a little paint marker and mark the front of the belt so I know the rotational direction of the belt. The next thing we're going to do is use a wrench to remove the tension from the belt. These are either a 16 millimeter, you can use a 16 millimeter wrench or a 17 millimeter wrench. We've seen both sizes. And you're going to want to rotate it in the clockwise direction, which it's a little stiff, and then we're going to push the belt off the top of the alternator pulley. Next thing I'm going to do is use a regular screwdriver, a little small one, and pop off the overrunning alternator pulley cap. You could use a bigger regular screwdriver, but I kind of find this one works better using a smaller plastic cap. Next, using the overrunning alternator pulley spline socket, we're going to want to insert that into the pulley, as well as a 17 millimeter wrench fits onto that spline socket, and then we're going to install the 10 millimeter 12-point bit into the shaft of the alternator. And the next thing we're going to do is use a 1/2 inch drive ratchet to break it loose. So now that we have that loose, we can rotate the pulley in a counterclockwise direction. And there you have your old overrunning alternator pulley. The next thing we're going to do is install the new overrunning alternator pulley. Threading it in a clockwise direction. As well, we're going to torque it. The factory torque spec for it is 63 foot-pounds of torque. So we're going to reinsert the spline tool, reinsert the spline tool, the 17 millimeter wrench, and then we're going to put the bit back into the shaft. You want to make sure the bit really goes in properly, just because typically your torque style bits and Allen bits or Allen fasteners are easy to strip out. So just making sure it seats properly inside. The next thing we're going to do is install the new plastic dust cap. You just want to pop it on until you hear it snap. The next thing we're going to do is reinstall the Serpentine belt. To do that, again, we're going to use a 16 millimeter wrench on the Serpentine belt tensioner and rotate it clockwise so that we can get the belt around all the pulleys. And then we're going to release the tension. And next we're going to want to work our way around the Serpentine belt and confirm that it's mated to all the pulleys properly, just so the belt isn't misaligned. Next, we're going to swing the fuel filter housing back down into place, and then we're going to maneuver the fuel lines, clip them back down into place. If you remember, we didn't remove the bolt down in the bottom, so you can swing the bracket into the bolt as it's being installed. And then install the upper bolt. And the lower nut. And the next thing we're going to do is torque these to 5 Newton meters. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to start the vehicle so I can inspect the Serpentine belt system and make sure everything's rotating properly. So that's an overview on how to change an overrunning alternator pulley on a 2006 Volkswagen Jetta TDI. For more information on our products and maintenance needs for your vehicle, feel free to visit our website at blauparts.com. Thanks for watching.